Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today, we're getting into a comparison of these three, not so much the Lego sets, but these, what they represent, the lines that they represent when it comes to just house structures or building structures when it comes to Lego. So just going through the sets real quick. This one on the left is the modern family house, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just confirm that. Yes, it is the family house and electric car. The middle one is the Tudor corner. And the one on the far right over here is the cozy house. Making sure I have all that right. Yes. So the difference between all of them is there are three separate lines, and though each of these lines will kind of really cater to that like domesticated city-like kind of, situation, like house structures, business structures, maybe even other type of facilities. Like in the city sets, you have police departments. Matter of fact, the modular line, which the middle one is the Tudor corner is part of the icon set. They'll just for short just call it the modular line. Also has same kind of facilities as well, police departments, fire departments, things of that sort as well. And then the line that the cozy house is the Lego Creator 3-in-1s, and that also too for a long time had and still does have certain lines of not just residential, but sometimes commercial establishments like the noodle shop and the toy store and whatever the case like that. So all these lines pretty much are dealing with these kind of structures, but essentially what you have is the city line on the left. This house here is the family house, is part of the Lego City line. And in the middle, obviously, I just said the modular, the Tudor corner is part of the icons line, and the far right is the cozy house is part of the Creator 3-in-1 line. Now, generally speaking, there's almost an ascension of age range and details where the city line, this goes for age 6. And the previous, I didn't want to have both homes up here, but the previous modern home, keep saying modern home, city, family house. The previous one that came before this one was for age 5, even though the detail on it is just a little bit above, but not by much. But this, for the most part, the city sets will be in a little bit less detail. The Creator 3-in-1 sets are usually in a little bit more detail, and the modular or icon sets, we'll say the modular icon sets, because there are icon sets that are not based around the theme of, city structures and things of that sort. So we'll just say the modular icon sets is the most detail. Now, granted, I will say, and these ones this particular, the cozy house says 8 plus. And then the modular set, we're just going to call it modular set, even though it's part of the icons. But from this point on, just so it doesn't get confused with other icons that don't fall in that range. This modular set the modular sets go, say, for about 18 plus is the age range. I'm sorry, I was about to say it like it's price. 18 plus. So you can see that there's a level of detail increase, also to a level of complexity level and piece count. So, all those things kind of really going, hand in hand. This one has somewhere in that 400, the mid to high 400 piece range. The city set, the 3-in-1 has about an 800 piece range, and you can see the detail on it is far more significant than the city set. And all these items have already been reviewed on the channel, so I'm not going to go into a heavy detail or review. It's just comparing the lines, and then also just kind of giving just a little bit of a rant on the whole thing. And then obviously the modular line has far more detail and far more pieces. At this one particularly is 3,266, but generally speaking, they're in that 3,000 range, give or take, sometimes a little bit below, in the high 2000s or just above 3,000. So in that regards, there is that difference in detail and obviously difference in price, where this one initially was somewhere around maybe the $50 range, $50 to mid $50 range. The Creator 3-in-1 was also in the $50 range. And it still is right now, which is actually pretty great that still stayed that price, because it's still in the market where this house is no longer available. And this, the Tudor corner just came out, and this goes for $230, and all the modulars, generally speaking, are in that ballpark range. Unless obviously any set's been discontinued, then it would have been, more expensive. So that's a pretty much a basic breakdown on like where they all kind of fall, because all these are a very similar theme in terms of, like I said, they all are part of the city set is always going to be about a city. You know what I mean? That's the general theme. Icons has sub themes, and Creator 3-in-1 has sub themes. The sub theme of the Creators 3-in-1 that are specifically about house structures. Like I said, there's a few of them. There's a cozy house, which is this one. You have the soup, I think it's called the soup shop, and a few others like the toy store and a few other ones like that were all like a sub theme of the 3-in-1 Creators, specifically for, you building your own little city. And then obviously icons as well. The icons have different types that are like things like, like I think there's the Jurassic Park set is that. I think the Jaws set is icon. So you got all these other kind of things, but the ones that are really detailed for people building onto their city is the modular set of the icons. So these two, icons and Creator 3-in-1, have the sub themes, and that's the specific ones that we're talking about. And within that scope, all three of these lines are based on developing your city, but you can start more affordable with less detail, easier to build, and on average are probably more affordable. Surprisingly, this one was a great price for what you're getting in it. But I would imagine on average, they would probably be more expensive than the city sets of comparable, somewhat comparable size, though the city set will give you a few other things, like sometimes more people, more minifigs, and, for about the equivalent price, which might be the reason why base price wise, they're almost comparable. Now, another aspect of things, and I'm not going to zoom out and kind of, get wild with the whole space and the viewing, because I don't want to get too much extra clutter into the scene. But at the same time, and I'm not going to go into heavy detail with some of these things, but on the family house here, I'm just going to call them by the name of the actual sets now at this point. The family house here came with 3 minifigures, and essentially it, what I do like about it, if someone's starting off and you're just kind of in that beginning phase of putting together a little city or whatever the case is, Lego city sets, residential ones, and we're focusing really mostly on the residential aspects of things right now, even though, like I said, they do have commercial and residential, whatever the case is. But from this perspective here that we have, they give you a good amount of detail. Plus, what they also do is it's a good starter set. It's a good starter area, or if you want to be, you want something that's affordable, but they do give you a good amount of detail in it. Now, this set here had actually a really nice looking kitchen, even better than the kitchen in the previous version of this set. And one thing that this set did really well was that it actually had, and I'm always big on this, it actually had everything needed in a home for it to make sense. So they combined the living room kitchen space. So that part wasn't all that great. The living room kitchen space has like a couch. There is no TV, no entertainment in it, but you got a really nice refrigerator setup, stove setup, kitchen. Like I said, I'm not gonna bring us all face close to the screen because I already done a review on these and they're already there. So if someone wanted to see them, they can do that. But, it's got a really nice setup with pots, pans. You even got these drawers, which should be facing inwards. But in this case, let me see if I can open this. They are facing outwards, because if they're facing inwards, we wouldn't be able to actually interact with them. But, you know, look at that. You've got forks in it. So this set really went above and beyond in terms of the detail that you get. I say that the value on this set was kind of like, keep in mind, it was the latest of the family house for Lego City. Even though this is like a 2023 set, it hasn't been replaced with anything else, but it definitely hit that bar with the details, including having a bathroom. And one thing that this one did, like I mentioned, that other ones didn't do in the past, was that it has every single room needed for a family to live in. And if I had a proper Lego Friends set to throw in the mix, I would, because I really think you can categorize that in there. But obviously for the people who just want minifigures and not mini dolls, this wouldn't, like, really, those that won't fall into the category. But just as far as structures and building your city, you could use those and just replace the mini dolls with minifigures. But, you know, that's a sidebar. One thing, like I said, with this is that you have the kitchen with the living room set up. You've got a bathroom. And the bathroom has a shower. It has a toilet, a really nice built toilet too. What it doesn't have is a sink, but that's fine. At least you have the actual bathroom itself. And then you have 2 bedrooms, which a lot of times places don't have that. The last set before this one didn't have that too. Like a place for everyone to sleep, the whole family to sleep. This has he fell out of his bed. This has a little bed for the son, and then it has a larger bed for both the mom and the dad. Fun fact, he has a little earpiece, so that's the whole inclusion thing as well. He's got a nice TV in his room with a game system. They've got a little shelves with like plants on them, so it's really cool. This I felt like this is one of the best home structures that you can get, because it just has everything that completes a full home, and it's not even that big either. So the fact that you have literally a total of 4 rooms and it's all the rooms that you need, I think is great. Now, the Cozy House, by comparison, has, like I said, more detail. One thing when I reviewed this set, I made note that it is missing one important room, and that is the bathroom. But it has a lot of detail. And I think that if someone is going from the city sets and you want a little bit more detail, you can come to the Creator 3-in-1 and you're getting that detail. And it's I would honestly tell you that I feel that this Cozy House's detail, you know, it came out a little before, obviously, this particular modular set. I would say that the detail is on the level of the modular sets. It's just that the modular sets might go a different creative path, but it's not to say that it's lacking detail versus the modular. I wouldn't say that. This is one of the kids' toys, so I'm just pulled it out the way because there was no room to kind of squeeze it in the inside in his little toy bin. But between the little cobblestone road, like little pathway, this one opens up a different way. And that's another thing too. Let me get that out of the way. I forgot to mention. All these different lines have different ways of accessing the locations. The city line is open back, which is great for people to just freehand to play with, and it's, you know, it's easy to access. And I actually don't mind that setup if you know you're going to be more interacting with the you know, with the set. The Creator 3-in-1 often does a clamshell design, so open up, and then you can either close it and make it a full enclosed thing. So that's like your complete house right there, which is awesome because it is closed, but then you have to open it up. The negative to that, if someone's like building a city setup, is simply that, and then here you can see how you'll have to open back on the back there. The only negative to that is that because it's a moving base system, if you put it in a city setup from the way most people have their city setup, you won't be able to move it like that when it comes to you engaging with it. You just have to lock it closed and leave it there. You know, and maybe you can turn it into a similar to the way a modular set would be, where you can lift up the top, but nonetheless, that's not how it opens. And obviously the modular sets, they open up where you take the layers off up top for each floor. So that way you can kind of just dig downwards, like putting your hand in the cookie jar is how you would interact with it. That works for the way most people's cities are set up. So It's kind of like, even though you can kind of cross mix these, for the most part, if your city gets crowded, these designs won't interact well with each other because your city is going to be based around the way that you interact with these. So for example, if you had a city that was of a lot of creator 3-in-1s in them, because the creator 3-in-1s can actually be three. If you bought this set 3 times, you got 3 different, structures. You're gonna, because the main one opens up like that, and all the main versions of all 3-in-1 creator sets open like that. Essentially, if you had them all on the outskirts of the town, and say the center of the town was like a road, and then you had them on the outskirts of the town, then essentially you would interact with it by opening them up like that. Where if you did the same thing, the outskirts of the town for the Lego City sets, that would also work, because you would just have to go behind, the outskirts of the town, and you'd see the insides of the homes without having to move the homes. But that won't work for the modular sets. Now back to like what I was saying with this one has a lot of detail, and I would say the detail is very comparable to the modular set. Mostly, I don't really consider it less detail, because this has 800 and something pieces, and even though its size overall feels like, if you bought 3 of these, which would run you just shy over $150, maybe like 160 and some change, you'd be having, there's like 850 something pieces. So you'd be having almost the equivalent pieces of a modular set if you had 4 of them, like on the low end of a modular set. And so based on that kind of way of thinking, I think that the detail in this, for its size, being about like 1/3 the size of the modular set, is equal to it in detail. You got the detailing on the roof, which is nice. You've got a really nice looking chimney that is equally as nice as the ones on the modular. Keep in mind, this is a older set, so if it seems a little like less in terms of the way the design is, that's only probably just because of the age of it. Front porch area, that would be the back porch area. This would be the front porch area if you had it, the correct way around. You aren't going to get animals in this set. They're all brick built, but you see the detail also. Now this one has the right amount of rooms for each person to sleep. They have a full-size living room and a full-size kitchen, as opposed to the city house. But the one thing about the city house, a family house, did is that you actually have a bathroom, but this one's missing a bathroom in favor of a separate kitchen and living room space. So that's the one thing there. But the detailing is nice. You don't have all the same things. There's no refrigerator, but you do have a really nice looking sink and stove, which is more dimensional than the stove on that one. And you got a kitchen table too, so everyone can sit at the kitchen table to eat. So that's another big plus there. But like I said, this is a step up in detail, but a little less than the modular. Now, here we go. I'm just going to put that right over there. And here we go with the modular. And the modular set, and I'm not going to go into it because it's really big right now, and I already did a review on it, but obviously this has a higher level of detail, and it costs a lot more. You get 7 minifigures in this. They say 8, but one of them is a mannequin figure, so we're not going to count that specifically. So we're going to say 7. The family house has 3, and the cozy house has 3. Now we're not including the pets either. Each of these sets have pets, but the Creator 3-in-1 has it's brick built. Now, like I said, it's just kind of really interesting the fact that all 3 of these lines, you can build a city using all 3 of them together and mixing them. They're all different. I won't say one is worth more than the other, but it all depends on what you want to get out of it. Now, for the price of the modular, you could roughly get about 4 of each one of these, or so 4 city structures that might be about 50 or 50 and some change, and 4 3-in-1 creators that might be about like 50 and some change. But obviously you get so much more detail with the larger modular, and it's also about your expert level as well if you're at that level. So it's just something to consider. But like I said, this is just like a rough kind of comparison of all the three lines. Not saying like one is better than the other. They're obviously different and made for different target audiences, but it's just kind of going over like how you interact with them, what they generally come with, what their price range is, their level of detail and whatnot. And like I said, as far as their compatibility, if you have a small city that's not all on top of itself, you can have all three of these in that city. But if you have a city that is very tight, well, then the city sets and the 3-in-1 are going to interact differently versus the modular, which, you know, well, all of them interact differently, but the 3-in-1 requires movement of the base, which, like I said, would be different or difficult depending on how your setup is. The city has the easiest access if you're able to access the back of your shelf or like setup or table that you have them on. Then that's not a problem without having to move the structure. But if you're just able, if you're coming from a downwards angle, then obviously the modulars are the ones that work out best. And the modulars are, I'm not going to say that they're all taller, because there are some structures for the city that are pretty big city sets. Like there's like large apartments, and I believe there was an apartment set, and then there's like a downtown set that's also pretty tall. So those ones all are pretty high up. And I believe the police set was pretty tall as well. And that actually is a pretty good value at $55. You know, in terms of, let me correct myself, not necessarily value in terms of what you're getting for it, but in terms of it's an affordable price. So yeah, just wanted to do that kind of like breakdown of these. Which do you guys prefer? What do you have? Do you have a mixed city setup, or do you have just the Lego City theme? Do you just have the Lego modular? Because a lot of people like just doing the modulars. At least the people who are the more older audience will just do the modulars. And then you have the Creator 3-in-1s, which I think is a pretty nice blend in the middle, because they are they're very detailed and they look very nice. And I think they stand very well next to the modulars in terms of just the detail. So if you're like, well, I want a very detailed city that looks nice and has a certain aesthetic to it in terms of very detailed, closed off, I definitely think that it does that. You can use that for that, especially since the one drawback with the modular sets is modular sets, for the most part, other than I would say the bookstore, the Birch bookstore is the only one I think was like this, where you had two separate buildings. One was commercial, one was residential. And so it kind of gave you the sense of, okay, I can have individual residentials. Other than that, most of the modular sets will have residential at the top. This one has an apartment at the top. It has a clock maker shop on the second floor, which could be converted into apartment pretty easy. And it has the pub and businesses on the ground floor of the pub, and on the back is the haberdashery, the clothing store. But for the most part, you always have the residentials attached to the kind of main theme of whatever that set is, that modular is, which is usually a commercial building. So if you imagine a city of just the modular sets, you would have no independent apartments or houses that are separate from establishments, which kind of might make you, maybe even rub you a little bit the wrong way, because you might have that feeling like, okay, well, everybody is living in a commercial building, but just on the upper floor, which is cool for a couple of buildings, but maybe not every building. Whereas with the Creator 3-in-1 sets, there are not enough of them for you to say make a full city on its own with just that, because there's not that many of them. But the beauty of the Creator 3-in-1 is that every set could potentially be two other versions. So you can literally buy the set 3 times and create 3 different things straight off actual instructions, not you just winging it off the top of your head. With that being said, they are individual structures. Some of them do have like an apartment on the top and have a commercial establishment on the bottom, like the noodle shop. And I think the toy shop has something like that too. But obviously you have this option here, which is a full house. You have a different types of like a building structure too in this 3-in-1 creator setup, and another one that's like I think a lake house or something like that. I'm not too sure, but it's got three types of residential setups. But like I said, at least this whole set here is all residential setups. So if you wanted that option, you have that. In addition, though, you do have, like I said before, the commercial establishment ones. So you have the mix of just all residential or the commercial establishment ones, where, like I said, the modular, you don't have it all. And then even though the city theme is less like detailed as these, and it's less whatever, so people, the older audience may not gravitate to it as much. It is the most independent, where you'll have a house, and they don't make as many houses as I think they should, but you'll have probably like a house in an apartment set. So you've got like maybe 2 different ones at a given year, and then you'll have some sets that combine, like the downtown set had commercial and residential in one big setup. But then you also have obviously the other commercial or business establishments, like, food places, fire department, the police department. Every time you're always gonna have that in a city set. So you have all these things, but they're separate. So you're not getting them all. If you made a city of just the Lego City theme, you actually have different buildings going on. Made a city just the modular set, that everything's gonna always be in the one building. You're never gonna have a separate area for commercial from residential. And then with the 3-in-1 set, you have a blend of both. You have independent residential, you have combined commercial and residential. I don't think you have independent commercial, but most of the commercials might have a small little apartment in it, and is mostly commercial, so that's fine. But also too, there is is it a mansion set? It's like a modern, I forget what it's called, but the 3-in-1 currently has I don't know if it's called like a modern beach house. I think it's called a modern beach house or something like that, but it's pretty big. It looks almost like a mansion a little bit. I forget the name of it at the moment. I'm gonna look it up. Yeah, it's just called the modern house. So it looks almost like more like one of those kind of California type of houses. Yeah, just called a modern house. And it's funny, it's actually almost twice the price of this one, but it only has 939 pieces. So it's maybe like about 100 pieces more than this one, but it costs almost double. But it's just the way that it's structured. And some of those pieces actually are a lot bigger pieces, because this has a lot of small pieces for the little pebble walkway and whatnot. But anyway, let me jump back to being on course. So that is the difference between the lines. And like I said, if you had to build a city independently of just one line and not including the others, though a lot of people love the modular set, your town would be a little wonky in that regard, because you really wouldn't have a place for none of them to live. If you build it just off the 3-in-1, you could have a pretty diverse city, because you do have the residential and commercial separately, and the fact that they're 3-in-1, you can buy them more sets of the same ones and then do it like that. Make different versions. But the city set also, you could build probably the most complete city, even though it's gonna look the least detailed and the least like I don't want to use the word professional, but like the more grown audience probably wouldn't gravitate with it as much. But like I said, you can also just put together a city that combines all of these types, and there's nothing wrong with that too. And even though some people are maybe against it, or some people will buy these sets, like the Lego City sets, and turn them into modulars, and they'll do the same with like something like a 3-in-1 and turn it into a modular, which is fine too. But if you're not on that level of putting things together, you can just go and have it just as it is, and I think you would be completely fine mixing and matching with the cities. So mixing and matching with the sets, sorry. So with that being said, you guys, as always, you guys like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to catch you guys in the next video.